Alright, kids, ladies and gentlemen, YouTubers and everybody. I have a quick update here I'll do. I have people asking, so I guess I'll jump in. I got everything done. The only thing is everything's working good. The drive shaft, not the drive shaft, the rear, the pinion angle is a little screwy. The pinion is like facing up and it's straight with the drive shaft. So when I roll into this thing, it wants to wheel hop like a son of a bitch. And then also what happens is I had this thing out making some boost and the drive shaft like comes up and hits the fucking floor. So I mean, terrible noises come out of it when you put the driveline under stress. So I'm going to take care of that tomorrow. But the one big thing is I got so pissed off messing with this megasquirt prototype trans controller and everything else, and all I want to do is like build a cruiser out of this with the 4L80. I ended up ripping it all out. I was so pissed off that I couldn't get it to do what I want, and I was beginning to think that my transmission might not work or some other shit might be wrong. So I ended up pulling it out, and I bought anyway because I was going to put a stock computer in this car anyway. We're going to use the megasquirt for something else. I talked to these guys not far from me. I'm in Pennsylvania and these guys are in Toms River, New Jersey. PSI conversion harness. I just bought a whole harness from them made to swap into a car. Has OBD2 and everything all relocated. Has a mini fuse panel here with everything in it for the stock computer. That's my neighbor works at a junkyard, so he brought me home a 2000 Silverado ECU. That's it. And I had everything done to the ECU already. You have to pick options. This is a 4L60, like LS1, quote unquote, LS1 plug and play harness. And there's an option you can select for a 4L80, so they repin for a 4L80, add the other VSS thing, and then I also had them put EV6 connectors on instead of, I guess, EV1s. But this is just the plug and play harness. I just threw it in the engine bay for now because I just wanted to see if I could get everything working in the trans and everything going. But everything plugged in great. Idler control works. It has the thing for the alternator, all the injectors and coils. The only thing I had to do was this had a newer style map sensor plug. So I put the 3-bar old school style plug on there and everything else. And then it plugged right into the trans. And you power it down off the starter wire. There's a power wire there. And then there's a ground that goes on the head. And there's another ground here that you can run the harness in the car. I didn't want to run it in the car and waste my time. I just wanted to see if everything worked. So I just laid it in the engine bay. I mean, a lot of the trucks, 90% of the trucks have the damn ECU in the engine bay. It sits over there, basically, in a truck. So I figured it's safe. It's already oxidized and a piece of shit already, but it works fine. And then after everything's done, you only have this tiny little trigger wire to apply power to. And it hits all the relays and turns everything on. And then the OBD2 port is actually still out here in the engine bay. So I plugged that in and ran it into the damn car. But I was able to, this is the whole megasquirt harness right here. I didn't even get to yank it out yet. But I fired this thing and it fired up great. I had to do a little bit of tuning to get it to run and idle, but it fired right up. And I got it idling and then I backed it out and drove around the block and it was great. So I went for a long drive and cleaned everything up tune-wise. And put gas in the tank, put like 10 gallons of gas in the tank. And that's where I learned that the driveline gets upset. I made about 10 pounds of boost total. I had some leaks, not in the intake. I have the intake plugged, but there were some, these leak before the throttle body. There's a hole here and a hole here on my intake setup. They're not all the same. This actually has a nice EGR block off. It's plastic, it's hard plastic. I didn't even have to block that, but I had to fill those. So we'll see how it does after that, but it seems like it's running about 10 pounds right now on that wastegate. So I can always get a manual boost controller and turn it up, but even 10 pounds and 12 degrees of timing was feeling pretty good. It has 327 gears, so they're a little bit long. Also, the stock transmission tune is very mild. I left that in because the stock transmission in the truck shifts second gear at like 11 miles an hour and shifts third gear at like 18. So I left that in because I wanted to make sure the trans hit all the gears. It was questionable after all of this. So I just drove up the street and the damn thing was like blah blah blah, locked up. Hit the lockup already at like 35 and third, shifted fourth, still locked. So I was happy with all that, so I might change the transmission settings obviously a lot and make it more aggressive, because you can roll into this thing at like 45 and it stays in third, and third is fucking extremely long with a 26 or a 27 inch tire back here, and it won't downshift. It just sits in third and makes boost at like 60 or something like that. But pretty happy with everything so far. I actually am really happy with this PSI harness for a car that's going to be a driver like this one. This car really will have the stock converter in it, and I'm not going to go too nuts with it. I just wanted something. We'll do burnouts with this thing. We'll take it to the track every now and then, but this, I didn't build this to like beat every other car. I just wanted something cheap and something a little bit different. Like, I recirculated the wastegate and everything. It's incredible how quiet this thing is. It's actually like 1 or 2 in the morning, I don't even know. But I'll see if it wants to cold start or semi-cold start. But it's incredible how quiet it is, really. Fired up and idled nice. But hell of a test. That's a completely stock truck computer and swap harness. Smells like turbo car out here after that. Only other things I need to do is, oh yeah, we found the water. It was leaking water, I think I mentioned. This hose was just on too damn far. There's an aluminum nipple here. It was over the nipple, and obviously couldn't seal over that very good, so it was trickling out of there. My friend found it. I didn't even want to deal with it, but he found it and everything is fine. I drove it around for many, many miles. I'm not sure how many. The odometer and gas tank thing and everything doesn't work in this car, so not like it would anyway. But I drove it like 2 towns over, filled the tank, drove it back. Everything was very happy. I decided I better park it before something happens. Everything was going too well. I painted the rest of the intercooler piping. I put hood pins in it because I cut the whole rad support out and moved the rad back. I think that basically covers everything. I don't think I'll be testing the megasquirt in this car anymore, just because it's fucking really happy now with all the stock shit. So I'll put the megasquirt stuff in another car that will just race. But I figured I'd tell you all that info. If you're interested in just building a car to drive, you know, low horsepower 4L60 would be fine. If you're going to go turbo and everything, you might as well go right to a 4L80. And then it's hard for me to recommend megasquirt setups for a 4L80 because it gets expensive. You might as well just get a stock ECU and have everything. I mean, that's only if someone in your area can tune a stock ECU. That's the trouble, but there's usually fairly good tuners for all of that everywhere. But that is my quick update with my pretty loomed PSI harness in there, and I might put the ECU in the car, but it actually looks pretty happy right there. So I might just leave her right there. And then I think there's output wires here for like a check engine light, fans, fuel, pump, and all sorts of shit. So I may end up using 1 or 2 of those. I think I can wire it to my fan, turn my fan on and off. Pretty neat, but other than that, it's pretty much done. It's already tuned on 10 pounds. I just have to mess with the trans, and to get aggressive with it at all, I got to fix the rear end situation. I don't want to, I got a good deal on that rear. I only paid $100 for a disc brake Ford rear. And it went in easy. I don't want to break anything. I don't want to fucking bust an axle or spit my drive shaft. I just spent $300 on a nice steel drive shaft. I don't want to fuck that up either. So sorry, I don't have any burnout videos or anything. But the minute I brake stand this thing, it chattered so bad the first time I brake stood it. I laughed and I let out. It hopped around like a bitch. And it actually spit the battery out of the tray. That's just to let you know how bad the front end was bouncing from the ass end and having an argument with the asphalt. So once all that's straightened out, I'm sure you guys will see some retarded smoky burnouts out of this car because everything is going good so far. And that's my update.